I'm Cory, and I'm the owner of Camel Adventure Products. Yeah, the idea for the original Camel Tank on the F800s came up while I was on a round the world motorcycle trip with a friend of mine in 2009. About 2001, I started working in construction as a subcontractor installer, and the construction industry in Calgary, where I live, is generally really busy. And for 8 or 9 years, I couldn't take any time off in the summer. There was just no way. And my friend Tim had watched Long Way Round and thought that would be a really great trip, and kept bugging me, hey, we should do something like this. And I didn't know anything about adventure motorcycles, didn't know that people rode around the world, and definitely could never take time off in the summer to go do something like this. It just wasn't possible until the recession in 08, 09. So I found myself with no work, had no contracts to do, and just had this unique opportunity to take off for a while. So that's what happened. Started selling everything that I owned, kept the house, dropped my dog off at some friends, and in July of 2009, him and I left on a round the world trip. So I had bought a 2009 BMW F800, which was a brand new bike at the time, and Tim was on his R1200 GSA. While we were on this trip, it was super irritating for me with the fuel range on the F800, which is about 16-liter tank, and Tim's GSA was 32 liters. Even though the 800 gets much better mileage than 1200, it didn't make up for having a tank that was twice as big. I had a jerry can with me, and it was 8 liters, and that put my range almost on par with Tim's. The problem that I had with it was just the song and dance of always unstrapping it off the bike, wiping the cap down because it's always dusty and everything because you're off-road, of course, and then putting the spout together, taking the cap off and putting it back together and pouring it in, and I end up spilling a bunch of it, and then assemble it all and strap it back on the bike, and then drive however far to the gas station and then take it all apart again to fill it, strap it all back down. It works well enough for occasional use. If you're doing bigger trips and you're constantly pushing the mileage, then it gets old pretty quick for sure. So I started thinking about different ways that I could carry more fuel on the 800 and have it transfer into the main tank automatically, so you didn't have to stop and do it. And of course, when you're on a trip like this, you have a ton of time just in your helmet to think, and your mind sort of wanders, and that was kind of where my head was for a good chunk of the trip. How can I do this, and what are the options? That was in 2009, and in 2013 I shipped the first Camel Tank. A Camel ADV is not very big at all. In fact, it's just me. I am the CEO, I'm the janitor, I'm the parts designer, I'm the order taker, parts picker, delivery driver, and I've got a 3D designer that I use on contract, so I will make all the prototypes and then send them to him, and he'll actually draw them up into usable files in SolidWorks, and then we will send them out to different manufacturing companies to actually make the product. The thing is assembled in the shop, which is actually about 24 by 24, so it's about the size of a standard double residential garage. So that's the Camel Tank World headquarters. I started with a 2000 Honda VFR and didn't really get the appeal of motorcycles, didn't understand why everybody was so crazy about it and thought it was the greatest thing ever. Just didn't understand it. As it turns out, I was on the wrong bike. Sold that bike in 2001 and never planned on riding again. Ended up buying a 2009 BMW F800, and shortly after that I got a Husaberg 570 FE. Rode an 1190R KTM for a while, and now I've got an Africa Twin. Yeah, my riding history is different than a lot of people. I never rode dirt bikes as a kid, wasn't in the dirt on a bike until 2009, and that was just bad roads and back roads when we did the round the world trip. Started riding a little harder off-road in 2011, and it's been a steep learning curve. but have had some success with it. In 2013, I qualified to be on Team Canada for the GS Trophy in 2014, so that was a lot of fun. I've raced the Stump Jumpers Desert 100 race in Central Washington 4 times in the adventure class, and have podiumed twice with a first and a third, and that's a ton of fun. I did the round the world trip in 2009 with I think 19 countries, 30,000 K in 4 months. And then in 2010-11, I rode from Calgary to the Darien Gap in Panama and back. So that's another 10 countries, another 30,000 kilometers, was gone for 6 months. That was amazing. Left before it snowed, was gone all winter. And by the time I came back, there was no snow. So that was probably the best winter I've ever had. I really like doing the off-road racing, hard riding on the adventure bikes, but I do still really enjoy using them for what they were intended, loading up your panniers with tent and sleeping bag and cooking gear and things like that, and going out and exploring. So I really like to get to South America sooner than later, as I didn't get there in 2010 and 11 as planned. I would like to go back to Russia and do the Rotobones and the BAM Road. That looks like a total riot. It'll be a good time. And Africa. But Africa being as big as it is, there's so much to see, and I can't imagine going for any less than 6 months. Probably a year would be more like it. I would just hate to go that distance and only see bits and pieces of what I want to see. So, yeah, it's tough. It's tough right now with Camel. I can't take off for 6 months, and it's a little bit. It's kind of ironic that when I started it, it was because I wanted to have a product that I could sell and that would allow me to travel instead of doing service work, which is what I was doing in construction, and basically being tied to my work truck. So yeah, just in the building stages with Camel still, and at some point sooner than later, I want to get everything set up so that I can take off for multi-month trips without having the entire company fall to pieces. So that's something I'm looking forward to, definitely. No, Camel Tank isn't a full-time job for me. I do other things. I get bored quite easily, so I like to have a lot of variety. I still pick up construction contracts from time to time if the right ones come up. I've got snow removal equipment and contracts with a couple of different shopping malls, so that keeps me busy in the winter. And off and on for about 18 years or so, I've been working security at the front door at nightclubs, which is a really strange job to have at almost 40. It's something that I do actually really enjoy doing. I'm definitely not there for the money. You go and hang out with coworkers and see some of the most ridiculous things you've ever seen. Some of the funniest things that I've ever experienced have been working at the bar. I've seen some absolutely horrific things too, just absolutely awful stuff. But generally speaking, it's a good time. Go hang out with my coworkers, have fun, and flirt with girls. So it's not a terrible job to have. I'll keep doing Camel Tank for sure, and we'll branch out into some other stuff. When I incorporated the company in 2013, I knew that tanks weren't the only thing I wanted to do, so that's why it's Camel ADV and not Camel Tank. We've got some stuff right now coming out for the Africa Twin, a couple of different non-tank related products for that, and that's actually more of my background, is the metal fabrication. I've always been a builder of things, whether it was Lego when I was a kid, or model cars, RC cars, things like that. And for a long time I did off-road truck racing, so had Toyota trucks that were all built up, small block Chevy engines and Unimog differentials with portal axles and four-wheel steering and link suspension and coilovers and all kinds of good stuff. So it's just kind of who I am. I'm always in the garage and I'm always working on things, whether it's Camel or whether it's personal. So I feel very lucky that I found a job that I can do where I'm doing something that I love. Basically sold everything that I owned, kept my house and dropped my dog off at some and purchased a 2009 man.
I'm freaking out, man. You are freaking out, man.